decisions about our feelings, about our attractions. All of us on a daily basis recognize we have certain feelings or desires, and we make a choice. I will or I will not act on those desires. We are free will agents. Now, with time, some who realize they are attracted to the same sex will become comfortable with their orientation, and through repetition, perhaps become very comfortable with homosexual behavior, and at that point they may adopt what we would call a homosexual identity. That is, when homosexuality becomes a primary identifying characteristic, and that's usually accompanied by an acceptance of homosexuality as being moral or normal. Many men who realize they are attracted to the same sex will resist those attractions, believing that the attractions are not normal and they are not a moral option. Others will act on those attractions. Some will act on them secretly. Others will reach a point where they say, you know what? I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of pretending. I am now going to make both my orientation and my behavior a critical primary identifying characteristic. That's when many men, quote unquote, come out of the closet and say, I'm gay. And normally, when a man uses the term gay to apply to himself, he is saying not only that he is homosexual, but that he embraces his homosexuality and sees it much the way one would see his skin color or his gender, a primary identifying characteristic that he is comfortable with and even celebrates. So the term homosexual can apply either to a person's orientation, or to a behavior, or to an open identity. Important point, the three do not all necessarily go together, which leads to perhaps an even more important point, which is this. There really is no such thing as a typical male homosexual. Some male homosexuals are very promiscuous. Some male homosexuals are celibate. Some male homosexuals are politically very liberal, even radical. Some male homosexuals are politically very conservative. Some male homosexuals are flamboyant and stereotypically effeminate. Some are very masculine. So if someone you love is a homosexual, you really should only assume two things. One, the person is a homosexual. Two, that is someone you love. Other than that, we don't want to assume too many things about the individual. There's a lot of variety among the members of the homosexual population. Now, on all of these points so far, I think people on both sides of the issue would agree. People who condone homosexuality and people who believe homosexuality is abnormal generally would agree that the orientation is involuntary, deeply ingrained, that individuals do not choose their orientation, but they do make choices about their behavior, and that in many cases they identify themselves publicly by that behavior. Where the clash comes is over the question of whether homosexuality is normal, abnormal, a moral option, or an immoral form of behavior. And what determines our position on that tends to be our worldview. Worldview then determines our position on homosexuality, and this is critical in explaining why we believe what we believe about male homosexuality. So if I may, let me take a few minutes to discuss the biblical worldview as it relates to male homosexuality. A biblical worldview, that is, a worldview based on the belief that the Bible is a divinely inspired document through which God has spoken and given us guidance and instruction. That worldview includes two concepts that are critical to our discussion today: the concept of created intent and the concept of fallen nature. Let's look at each of these as they relate to male homosexuality. First, created intent. That is to say, we are created beings whose Creator has a specific intention for our existence and our behavior. We who hold the biblical worldview believe that we are created beings, not evolved beings, but that is another controversial subject for another controversial seminar. Sufficient for now to say we believe we are created beings. If I'm not a created being, if I have no creator who I will answer to, then it seems reasonable that I should call my own shots. What seems normal to me is therefore normal. What seems moral to me is therefore moral, so long as I am not verifiably harming another human being. But if I have a creator, and if my creator has specific intentions for my life and my experience, then it is less important what seems natural and right to me, and more important what seems natural and right to my creator. And as a created being, I assume then that my primary responsibility is to know my creator's intention and to see that my life is conformed to that intention. And that intention extends itself certainly to our social relationships, our family relationships, and to our sexual behavior. Both the Old and the New Testament have much to say about human sexuality, and that our Creator has specific intentions for the human sexual experience. You may remember in the Gospels when Jesus was being asked about the marital union, and he said, in essence, let's cut to the chase. Don't you know from the beginning God made them male and female. For this cause a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. The two will become one flesh. What God has joined together, let no one set asunder. Now, what did he just say? The Creator's intention was that the human marital and sexual union be independent. A man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. That it be monogamous. The two will be one flesh. That it be permanent. What God has joined together, let no one set asunder. And that it be heterosexual. Know you not that he created them male and female? And anything falling short of that would constitute then sin. Actually, the very definition of sin is missing the mark or falling short of created intent. Whether a behavior be the type that involves pornography, fornication, any form of adultery or homosexuality, we reject any such behaviors as falling short of created intent, and we consider them to be both sinful and harmful. Sinful in that they fall short of what God intended, and harmful both in this life and the next, because to take oneself outside of created intent is to do oneself both physical and spiritual damage, and ultimately we will answer to our Creator for what we have done with our bodies, both good or bad. Well then, one might say, if we are all created beings, and if I am gay, does it not stand to reason that God, who created me gay? If we believe in created intent, do we not therefore believe that whatever we are was therefore created by God? To which we would say no, and that leads to the second critical concept here, fallen nature. That is to say, we are born imperfect, physically, psychologically, spiritually. We are a created race, and we are an imperfect race. Fallen nature, then, accounts for the fact that while we are created by God, we are not necessarily